Today's update is about food inflation, leveraging the data released to Statistics Canada yesterday, Wednesday. The headline inflation number got a lot of attention at 0.09%, but what about food inflation? Let's find out. So this is inflation in the overall economy here, then food inflation as well as inflation year over year change for a lot of different food products. So you're looking at the blue bar is the March 2020 over the March 2019 inflation, and the red bar is the March 2019 over the March 2018 inflation. So at 0.9% here for 2020 year over year. So that means that the economy is slowing down. That's consistent with the economy slowing down, right? With consumers having less money in their pockets to buy and so forth. We started confinement measures sometime in March, depending on the province. And so that's entirely consistent with the rate of inflation slowing down is entirely consistent with the overall economic activity slowing down as well. And we would expect inflation to be even lower in April. Food inflation is a bit lower as well than what it was a year ago at 2.3%. I believe that in March 2019, the exact number is 3.6%, I believe. So in food inflation overall has not gone up yet in March as measured by the data. Maybe it's going to be a little bit different when you look at overall food inflation for April. But for March, I mean, not a whole lot of impact looking at the aggregate spending of consumers at the grocery stores. So this excludes any type of food purchases at the food service level. But looking at different food products, this is where it gets interesting. If you're looking at animal proteins now, 6.8, 7.6, 9.6%. So quite a bit of inflation for animal proteins year over year. That's actually consistent with some of the patterns in food consumption that were reported early on as confinement measures got started. So consumers stocking up and the demand for animal proteins and a wide range of other products as well went up fast. And actually that triggered quite a bit of inflation year over year. Another factor that can explain some of what we're seeing in terms of retail inflation is the lower Canadian dollar, that the drop in Canadian dollar that we started to record in sometime in March also is behind some of the inflation numbers that we're seeing. Cheese at 3.3%, significantly higher than what it was last year. Bread at 2.8. Fresh potatoes is an interesting example where, or an interesting case, I should say, because 2019 was a year out of the ordinary for potatoes. We had some issues with production, and so to have 2020 prices at the level of 2019 is also consistent with consumers stocking up. Gasoline is also interesting. We'd expect that another significant price drop in April. Overall, what do we expect though for food inflation in April? Well, a lot of it depends on what exactly is going to happen with the food supply. We got some issues right now at the processing level when it comes to animal proteins. Um, Pork and beef processors their workers have had to deal with a lot of many different cases of COVID-19. And so those plants have been shutting down or maybe went from 2 shifts to 1 shift and so forth. So it creates, a lot of questions around the food supply. But from what we can tell in the data, stocks, of beef, pork, and chicken are mostly higher than what they were a year ago. So there's plenty of food in the supply chain. So it's not entirely clear that we're going to see prices go up even further than what we're seeing up on the screen because of lack of supply. I think there's plenty of supply. If we see prices go up, it might be that we have the cost structure of processors going up as well because some of these processing plants have had to redeploy equipment, capital, and so forth to respond to a higher or stronger demand from grocery stores as opposed to a demand coming from the food service. And so they had to repackage products and offer products of different size that they would normally do and so forth. And so that means additional costs, higher wages as well paid to workers and so forth. So as these costs are passed on through the supply chain, we may see a little bit more in food inflation at the retail level, but right now there is no issue with the food available in the supply chain. For more information, you can go to fcc.ca/knowledge. Thank you.